Digital development challenges our daily routines and everything we do, but what kind of an impact does it have for identities? As a futurist, I look for the next questions, the better questions, and let me take you through some ideas. Well, national identity, will the future still be about national identities, or could it be about one global tribe? Now, if all living creatures could actually vote, humans would be voted as the predators of all times. If 10,000 T-Rexes would be, for some reason, reborn, it would take just 1 week, and we would have like excellent new zoos and a new brand of meatballs. So we are the ones. So the question would be that how would we choose? Could we choose a better narrative, perhaps? Now, corporate identity, would bigger be always better in the future? Human identity question would be that will work still be the cornerstone of human identity? And finally, I will get back to the molecules. Now, I come from Finland, which is one of the Nordic countries. Sweden, Finland, Norway, Denmark, Iceland. Small countries that definitely want to be the pathfinders in this next era. It's about understanding what structural overspending is. And I think we have an idea of what that is and how we should solve that question. The question is that we have, in our cities, we have 10 times too many cars compared to what we actually need. In Finland, we have most likely 4 times as many buildings and houses as we really need. So the question is that how do we speed up the change toward the next level systems, to the new energy system, to the new traffic system, food system, you name it. We are trying to do that. So we actually are looking for the next identity as a test lab for the rest of the world. We, as a very small and organized country, could do that, but we have a problem. Now, we have believed always in innovation for 100 years. The problem with innovation is that it doesn't pay. There used to be, our favorite quotation used to be the early bird catches the worm. But since we know that the first mover advantage doesn't pay anymore, it doesn't exist. It used to be 33 years, but now it has shrunken to less than 3 years or maybe just months. So the actual world likes the quotation, the second mouse gets the cheese. You know what happened to the first mouse. So we don't want to be the first mouse in that sense. But how would it actually make sense for a small country, a small nation to somehow serve the world? Well, Finland, first of all, 5.6 million people, half of the population of London. But if you look at the quadrant meters, the size of the country, we are bigger than the UK. So basically Finland is a country, it's like a big national park with 5.6 million gardeners. So how do we see this? What would be the narrative, the Finnish narrative for the next era? In the world where we have so much more intelligence built around in our cities, how do we use that? Now, as we see it, there are 3 possible routes towards the future in this more intelligent surrounding. First of all, there's the choice of the way of China. China is looking for super control with data and artificial intelligence combined. It means that, for example, in big cities you don't have any corners that are not video recorded and face recognition and stuff like that. Well, super control, for better and worse, means that terrorists do not have a chance. On the other hand, you have the problem and the critical question of human rights. Then you have the route chosen by the US, which is superconsumption, which means that when we talk about a trip to Croatia, then suddenly, Facebook suggests us that here's the trip. You can buy it. For better and worse, once again. It's about having tailored offerings, which is nice. But then you have the, excessive consumption on the other hand. Then Finland. It's funny to speak about China, and the States, and then Finland, the two big ones. But we look for a super society. The idea is that it's possible to go to the next level systems, especially if you're a small, really organized, hardworking, modest country, a nation that wants to build a system, and the systems change. And that idea means that it makes sense to look for a system where you have relatively strong public sector, then you have really a big bunch of universal common assets, and then finally, the universal basic income, in some decades. But the thing is that super society means a place where you could actually, you would prefer to be unemployed in this kind of a society instead of being a millionaire in an underdeveloped country. So this is the way that we think that a small country, small nation could serve the world, because that's our possibility. That's the possibility of Nordic countries, and hopefully we will have a race between Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and Finland to grab that. Okay, yeah, so we have it. I just had a confirmation from the dear Swedes. Human identity then. Now, in the age of machines, how does work actually function as a cornerstone of identity? Good question. Now, a couple of thoughts about what other cornerstones might be in threat before we look at work. Now, one of the questions is trust. Trust will be a really critical component in the age of uncertainty. Mutual trust between people. The trust towards organizations have been, dramatically fallen in Europe. That's the case. But the thing is that we see that mutual trust is one of the critical components that needs to be really seriously taken care of. And Finland is one of the countries where cyber attacks are the ones that try to shred us to different parties, especially in Finland, because we have this trust thing. Now, I've been looking at, for several years, of the question of how our view of the world is built. Before 1990s, it was strongly by blood. It was your family, it was your relatives. But then we had a 20-year period where we actually saw that whatever media said about something, people would think likewise. And that was an interesting era. But then in 2011 and to this date, the view of the world is built with chosen people. So people tend to have something from their homes, but then they pick up the people that they listen to. And then you should be careful when thinking about what, for example, fake news is actually about. It's not about having a fake news somewhere. It's about understanding that if we want to have a really rational and fact-based view of the world, this is seriously threatened. So the question is that if we want to have evidence-based development, you need to have facts. And then what would be the antidote here? It would be mutual trust, it would be a really good education system, and it would be a strong cohesion. Now, A second cornerstone is also being threatened, and it's basically democracy. It's something that we have been not thinking about in Finland and most likely in the Nordic countries too. We have taken that as granted. We should not. Now, when we understand that we cannot continue this kind of an over-consuming lifestyle, our planet doesn't survive that. Young generations understand that we need to change fast. Now, democracy seems to be really, really slow. And it seems to focus on something really irrelevant, like Brexit or what have you. So it's not about the big questions that should be dealt with. So the question is that can we reshape democracy, to have its good elements, but make it faster? And this will be crucial. Transparency will be lost. We see that digital transparency will, reveal all the layers of history, and nothing will be developed in secrecy anymore. Then millennials suggest us one thing. We should not focus on owning things locally, but we should experience things globally. And this is a big message. So the question is that can we actually plant the next generation normal to our schools? Can it be found there? Do we understand that this is the thing that we have to do? The next generation should not be taught to live like us and then change. But instead, the new normal should be there in the schools in 2019. Corporate identity then. This is the end of machine imitation. The machines will beat us. So we should understand that our role is to find our artistic role combining the things we do with the machines. So people will form artistic communities in the workplace. And this eventually leads to a couple of questions. First of all, we will see most likely a split between growth and efficiency departments. Quite obviously, machines are in the efficiency side. Then it's not about managing directors, boards, or board of directors, or what have you. It's about destination statements that make sense. And finally, there's the Department of Trust, where you have the lawyers, where you have the people organizers, you have the cybersecurity people, and you have the communications officers. We will be ashamed of using the term human resource, eventually. The big thing is that the bigger just might not be better. If a group chooses its leader, it's called democracy. If the leader is placed from outside, it's called dictatorship. And this is the key problem of organizations. So we see, in the foreheads of big corporations, the best before dates. There will be an end to that. About humans, still, most of us still seem to see in this picture one problem instead of five. But there are 5 problems in this. There's one person that acts as a human and 5 that copy robots. They try to look like machines. If you think of deer is a beautiful animal. There's 1 million different ways of seeing a deer. But if you look at the schooling system, educational system, it's still something like this. So we try to, compete with the copy machines. And it doesn't make sense, because we should encourage people to see the differences. Because actually, like Pablo Picasso said, whenever something is, copied that's done by humans, nature doesn't copy anything. It's about variety, personality, and differences every time. It's like, you play Tetris, you know how it works. When you fit in, you disappear. So, when my children ask for advice for life, they so seldom do. But when they do, this is what I tell them, be you, the world will adjust. Don't look for what the world needs. You just, find your stuff, be the best version of yourself. Finally, think about molecules. Molecule identity. Molecule itself does not know that it's waste. It's a name that we have given it, the molecule. We said that, we didn't do the planning well enough, so we don't have 100% recycling. So molecule, now you're called waste. We should start to understand that, we should appreciate the molecules. They want to be, raw material or molecules simply. So if we appreciate the molecules, we actually appreciate life. And the waste, the name, the terminology here is the problem of our thinking. Thank you.